you doing there, Michael? How you doing, buddy?
Fantastic.
So we're here at what's called the Vegas Content Studio. We just took a little tour. Amazing place, right? Oh, my God.
Unbelievable. Unreal.
It really is. It just blows me away, all these different studios and podcasts, and they were good enough to give us a little podcast area, and here we are. And we're with Michael Marino today from Realty ONE Group.
Thank you.
Michael is a mega producer who really works his butt off as a realtor, and I'm honored to have you as my first guest on this show because we were just talking about it. You are what a lot of realtors hope to be. And before this interview is over, I would like to give people some idea of how to do it. I mean, I want people to learn from you because I know it's frustrating for me as a broker, trainer, agent, all the above. When I see someone start real estate and they get all fired up, they get all keyed up, they get excited, and then they fall flat 2 or 3 months later. I actually looked at your numbers. Sorry about that, but I can do that.
Yeah. I
looked at your numbers before we came here, and I saw you progress each and every year by a minimum of 20, 30% every year.
Yep.
So, and then last year it was just off the charts. I mean, I won't give the number, but it was off the charts. I mean, so welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Long way to get there, I know, Michael, but welcome. I mean, really, I'm excited. I hope, again, we talked about it a minute ago. We're hoping to bring some value to some agents out there who may be struggling. I also looked at a lot of other numbers out there, and I noticed that a lot of agents are not producing what they did last year. But last year was a bit of an anomaly, was it? What'd you say?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's an adjustment.
Okay. Before we even get started about anything, Golden Knights, right? We won 2 games already. What's the deal? Which game did you go to?
I went Monday night, where it was 7-2, and there was about 7 or 8 10-minute misconduct penalties, which I've never seen that many fights.
Is that because of their opponent or because of them? I mean,
it was mostly on the other team, but it was just people getting fired up, and you're out of the game for 10 minutes.
So Vegas is going to have a Stanley Cup, possibly.
I think so. I think if they win one game on the road, and they just come back Monday night, and they just need to win one more game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exciting. You going to go to any more games or no?
If they're whatever home games they have left, I'm going to all of them.
And you think they're going to have a big celebration, parade, all the above, right?
How can they not? It's Vegas.
All right, well, let's get started. So first thing I thought about when I was talking to you, I thought you are different than anyone in the entire office. And I'm not saying that just to make you pump you up, but that's the fact. You are different. You know that, right? You do things differently. You act differently. You're a much more of a team player. Even though you work as hard as you do and produce the numbers you do, you're always willing to help. Always willing to help as a team player. You think that kind of helps you a little bit because you're always willing to give back and always willing to give back. You're never too busy for anyone. You're here right now in the middle of the day after taking 2 listing appointments.
Yep.
That's typical.
And it's because I still, even 18 years later, I still go to people for help. So if I'm going to go to people for help and not feel bad about taking 5 minutes out of their day, the least I can do is reciprocate when somebody comes to me with a question. And it goes both ways. Every day I'm calling people or I'm just walking across the hall to whoever it is and saying, hey, what would you do with this? And it's nice to have the people around us to say, hey, what would you do with this? So when people come to me, same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's what sets you apart. And speaking of that, that was actually my first question. What do you think sets you apart from the pack, so to speak? I'm not saying better, worse, all the above. I'm saying it makes you apart from the average realtor.
So I was told by my dad that he thinks that the reason why I'm so busy is because I don't BS anybody. So other agents, my client, this is the way it is. This is what the house is worth. This is what you need to do to get the house. You're not getting a house. Just tell it like it is. Don't sugarcoat it. Here are the facts, whether it's good news or bad news. And more often than not, people will notice that. They'll realize that you're not filling them up with fluff. And they will respect you for that. And whether it's a client or another agent, in the end, it's going to cut out the BS and you're going to get to the end result. And if the end result is a sale or if the end result is, sorry, I can't help you, I'm going to try to cut out all the middle stuff.
It just seems so many realtors say that. I just don't know if they really do it. From coming from you, I really believe that you're going to act in best interest of the client rather than make a sale. And you'll find another sale. There's just no question about it.
Yeah.
So you probably missed out on a lot of sales, but really weren't in the best interest of that client, right? I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've passed on clients because I didn't agree with the approach or their numbers, or if they want to sweep something under the carpet, and I tell them that's going to surface later on, and then they go get another agent and they close it, but now they did it with liability and stress. It's like, that's fine. I don't need the sale that badly enough.
so you've actually, I wouldn't say fire a client, but elected not to work with someone.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or been a little bit more upfront at the appointment. So I make it very clear that if that's what you're trying to get me to do, I'm not that agent. I'm not going to do that. And I wouldn't say it happens often, but it probably happens 3 or 4 times a year where I choose not to go down that path with them. And in the end, somebody else will sell them, but I just don't want to be involved in what they're trying to do.
So you used to be a cook, right? A chef.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
not a cook. I know that.
I was that too.
I know that I was too. So,
Yeah.
many years ago.
Yeah.
But how does a chef transfer that? There is no transfer. How does a chef become a top producing realtor like yourself? I mean, how do you make that transition? That's a stretch.
Yeah, but actually one relates to the other, because everything you do in a kitchen, when you're running a kitchen, you have your system, you have your routine. This is your time management, and you get it done. You're just doing a different job. But by having that structure, I literally just take that and just do it. And instead of, make this and do this, now it's go on these appointments, so it's very similar,
Yeah, your business, from what I've seen outside looking in, seems to be very systematized, I guess, because you still do mailers that no one else does, right?
Yep.
And mailers help you, right?
Yeah, probably about 20% of my business annually comes from some type of mailer or farm.
You don't cold call, obviously, do you?
I never have. No.
Never have. You
never,
don't believe
not
in
once.
I certainly don't.
I don't want people doing it to me, so I don't do it to them. And because, going back to the first question, I do everything kind of genuine and it's straightforward. And I know cold calls, it's practiced and it's a script and it's fake. So when people cold call me, I know what they're doing, and I'll kind of throw them a little sarcastic back, and I'll say, look, buddy, I know you're sitting there with the mirror and the tie and you're smiling, but you don't have to do that with me. Just tell me what you want. But you're not going to make a sale, and then they hang up. So
they hang up.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
So I don't cold call. Yeah.
You don't call expireds.
I tried that once. I called like 5 for, a couple days in a row, and I got some traction. But again, it kind of went back to the same cold call thing where it was kind of like, I wouldn't want it done to me. And I know they're getting 30 expired calls that day. So to me, it's not a good usage of time. I can use my time and my energy and my dollars somewhere else to bring in business elsewhere.
So do you do open houses?
Yep.
You
yep.
do.
Oh yeah.
You do that.
Yep. I try to do at least 2 a month. It's on my schedule to do 1 a week. But if I don't have the time, or if I don't like doing them at other agents' listings because of the reasons why I do open houses. So if I have a listing of mine, that's optimal. I try to do it once a week.
So you prefer doing your own listings at open house kind of thing? Or?
I do. Yeah. For a number of reasons. I want to show the seller that, I'm doing everything I can to get your house sold. Obviously, I'd like to meet more buyers. I'd like to meet a buyer for that house, but I also would like to meet neighbors. And if they come in, they're going to say, oh, you're the listing agent. Your name's on the sign out front. You sent me a postcard a week ago. You're him. And now I just made another contact.
Do you have a farm of any kind? Do you believe in that or no?
Oh yeah, I have farms, but whenever I get a listing, I will set up the postcards. I just listed a house in your neighborhood, and ideally do the open house. So if neighbors come in, now they're putting 2 and 2 together. He just sent me a postcard, but I do have my geographic farms that I've been working since 2005.
You just told me that you had 2 listing appointments today.
2 today, yeah.
How many agents out there would hope to have 1 for a month, let alone 2 in one day?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's like when you set your day up or your week, you have to kind of prioritize so that if you come across those days where you're getting 2 in one day, that's one of the most important things. And obviously, whatever you have in escrow, you're going to keep an eye on that and don't let it fall apart. But a new listing coming in, that's your bread and butter. And ideally, you get them both and get them up and running. That's in a perfect world. You don't get to pick what days they come in. But if you've got 2 in one day, you've make it happen.
You're sitting here as calm as can be.
Very calm.
You don't use a transaction coordinator, or do you?
No. I tried to, but
you don't have an assistant.
No.
You don't have a buyer's agent.
No, when I go out of town, I will pay a buyer's agent just X amount of dollars per hour. And if they like something, I'll do the comps, I'll write the contract. And I've made a few sales that way. But as far as day to day when I'm here in town,
It's all you.
but I will utilize a buyer's agent if need be. But most of my buyers, unless it's a matter of if you don't see this house today, you're going to miss out. Most of my buyers will say, well, how about tonight? Or how about first thing in the morning? And most buyers, it's just being flexible with the schedule.
Well, forgive me for sounding like a dummy, but when I was doing real estate, if I had 2 or 3 transactions going at once, I would pull my hair out, let alone 15 like you. How do you do it? How the hell do you do it?
Just being organized, and you've seen my office. I have the 6 screens, and 2 screens are dedicated to just the Excel spreadsheets, which are the checklists for new listings, active listings, and properties in escrow. Mm-hmm. It's literally just, for me, it's easier because if I can have every file open at once, for me, it's very visual. So I can look, and I've got it color coded. So I can look and they're in order. So this one's closing tomorrow. This one's closing in 5 days. And if it's red, it's priority. If it's, different colors, and it's just a matter of saying, I'm going to go down these lists. And if I have 3, it takes me 5 minutes to scan my list. If I have 15, it'll take me 20 minutes to scan through all the lists, but then I just create my action list for that day. And it's do a home inspection, negotiate these repairs, tell this guy to put up his EMD, do a walkthrough with that one. And depending on how many are in escrow, doing those items may take 10 minutes, but it may take 3 hours of my day. But that's why some days you're doing more of this and less of that, and vice versa.
I'm chuckling because I actually see you. We sat together for 45 minutes yesterday. You kind of were going through all that. And it was incredible. But once again, you shared that with everyone at Realty ONE Group.
Yeah.
Gave it out to them. Here it is, totally free.
Yeah.
Some people would almost pay for that.
Yeah. And there's still some agents that are still using those checklists to this day.
I know a bunch that actually use that checklist. So it was well served.
Yeah.
So what the heck motivates you each and every day other than just you don't seem to be money driven.
It's not really. No, it's not. I mean, it's obviously that's the end result. That's how we get paid. But to me, it's more, I guess there's a couple different things, but obviously the idea of getting to a point to where if you don't have to work ever again, it's nice to chase that dream. Yeah. And whatever it is, whether it's through whatever income it is, it's having your eye on the prize and just working towards that goal every day and then reassessing it every month, every quarter, every year. So that's part of it. But also, I mean, I enjoy doing it. I like going around town every day. And, a lot of what I do is working with investors. And I've been owning and operating my rental properties for longer than I've been an agent. So a lot of people rely on me for advice. And it's a matter of, hey, if I buy this property, what's my return? And it's not about like, okay, you're handing over somebody the keys and they're going to, I love this house, the pool. But if you help somebody get a return and down the road, I've had people say, I made $400,000 off this property, 200 in equity and 200 in rent. And it's like, if people could do that 10 times over, everybody would be retired by the time they're 50. But it's not that easy to take that step. So that's part of it too.
So do you work with a lot of new investors or seasoned investors or?
Some of both. And the new investor is tough because you have to kind of explain to them what it's like, because you have to put on a different cap. Now you're a business owner and you don't have to worry about anything else. Don't think about anything else. Don't get hung up on the color of the carpet. Just look at the numbers. You're buying a business at that point.
Yeah, it's just basically, like you said, it's an income or an investment. Your production. We just talked about it earlier, how strong it is. Do you track that regularly?
Yep.
You know right where you are? Like, right, if I were to ask you today, how much volume have you done? You'd be able to tell me?
Maybe not day to day, but I do have a spreadsheet. And what it does is it will track X amount of sales per year. I don't count rentals or any of that, just sales. Where did it come from? That's an important, so I know where it came from. And then how many were buyers, how many were listings, and then what was the percentage on each. I'm not really worried about the bottom line. I'm more worried about like, where did I get those sales? Mm-hmm. What did I do to get them? So if I'm getting a lot more from repeats and referrals, I think the end goal to most agents is you want to be 100% referral based. Mm-hmm. So each year you slightly get higher and higher. And I think I'm about 60%, maybe almost 70% repeats and referrals, maybe 10, almost 20% from mailers. And the rest is a mix of like online leads, not so much social media, networking events. One of the listings today was I just met somebody just from being out and about, and I networked myself and I gave him my business card and he called me. So it's looking at where did it come from, and also buyers versus sellers. And I don't mind if I'm 50% buyer. Some agents only want to do listings. And to me, I feel like one strengthens the other.
And you do rentals too. You'd have no shame. I mean, shouldn't say no shame, but you'll do rentals, right?
I will. I mean, I don't go out there looking for rental
right.
clients, but if somebody comes to me and they were referred by so-and-so and they need my help, I'm not going to turn them away.
Talk about the landscape, what your career was like when you first started compared to now. Is it way different, or is it just basically the same thing?
It was very different because it was 2005. It was a much different market. You know, things were blowing up, and it was the countrywide home loans. Anybody
Right.
could get a loan, and the market was going crazy. But when you don't have experience, doesn't matter when you start. If you don't have experience, it's very tough to get going.
Yeah.
And there was no social media. Most everything, the brokerage I first worked for, there was not even a scanner and a upload your documents. Everything was a piece of paper. The broker had a little file bin, and it would say broker signature, and it was very archaic. So it was different in that sense too. To send an offer, you go fax it. So it was very different.
Did you ever sit with the homeowners and discuss the offer? We used to do that back in the day, where
in person?
you met with the homeowner.
Oh yeah,
You did that,
yeah, in person. Yep.
And you had to kind of talk about how nice your buyer was.
And you bring the blank counter offer and you do it all right there, and then you go back to the office and fax it, and
So you still enjoy this, obviously. Wow.
I enjoy it because the direction that the industry has evolved, and the more you adapt and the more you pick up with, I guess, the technology of, just the day-to-day stuff, that will kind of determine how efficient, not just efficient you can be, but effective, because if you're at a property and somebody says, I like it, what do we do? Let's offer. If you're not efficient and up with the software and everything, you've got to drive back to the office.
Yeah.
You've got to, and it's going to take you 2 hours start to finish. If you know what's going on and you have your templates and your system set up and that buyer is ready to go, you pull it up, you have your touch screen, they sign it right there, and within 10 minutes, the offer is submitted.
Yeah. Wow.
So
how is your year going thus far? I know, like we talked about, a lot of folks are down. You find yourself off a little bit, or you're totally on track, or
a little bit down, but if the month finishes up with everything that's in escrow and there are no cancellations, knock on suede, knock on this, then I should be right back to where I'm normally busier in the second half of the year anyways.
Really? Okay.
Normally, yeah. So I should be, assuming everything goes, now I'm seeing things ramping up with buyers, accepted offers, new listings coming up. So everything is going in that trajectory.
I follow a lot of so-called real estate experts, and it's good and bad, because most of them think they know what they're talking about, and sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. There's like an impending crash I keep hearing about, and you've heard about it.
I hear it every day.
How do you feel about that for the market we're in, Las Vegas, Nevada?
When people talk to me about it, I don't feel anything. I turn into a.
So you think we're going to be fine? I mean,
I think so. Yeah.
Let's not call it a crash, but is there going to be a market downturn, or?
There might be, but if there is an adjustment, one of my appointments today, they said, "What do you think about the market? Where's it going?" And I have it's not a rehearsed, but I have my, I guess, projection of where the market's going. Mm-hmm. And I said, forget what you hear on the media, and I have my charts, and it shows supply, demand, and the number of pending sales. It's straight from GLVAR, and it's just a chart, and it shows. And I say, look, the trajectory where it's going based on supply and demand, if interest rates are supposed to be down by the end of the year, which every mortgage expert is saying that, prices have no choice but to go up. And if they do go down, I don't see it being more than 1 or 2%. If they go up, it could be an annual gain of 5%. So that spread, down 2 or up 5 to 7% spread, that could be an analysis in any year, whether it goes up 2% or it goes up 8%, there's a 6% spread. So I think that's there, but I think now with the way people perceive the media, I think they're just taking it a little bit more, and they're kind of running with it in the wrong way.
Why is everyone trying to outguess the market these days? Back then, you'd buy a home to buy a home.
Yeah.
I mean, now everyone's got to play the market as if it's some kind of game or some kind of gamble. It's just you're buying a home, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand the whole, you want to buy at the right time. Is it just the media that's created all that, or what?
I don't know. I think maybe people watch too much HGTV or they watch too many real estate social media videos, and it's like, all right, everybody's an expert. But one of my calls today was, asking about if I do this renovation, am I going to get the money back? I said, that's one of the things we'll cover at today's listing appointment. And I think she said something like, oh, I watch a lot of HGTV. I don't need that part. And I'm not going to argue with her because I don't have the listing yet. But it's more or less like, yeah, that's fine what TV tells you. But in reality, this is what we advise. And yeah.
Well, I talked to we actually had someone come in our office who was one of the producers, whatever you want to call it, on HGTV, said basically you cannot even imagine how phony that whole thing is.
Oh, yeah.
It's just,
all those shows.
It's just
flipping this or that. Yeah.
So it's a tough business, right? Would you say? Is it fair to say?
That's safe.
I mean, it's probably the toughest business I've ever been a part of. I mean, it really is. What do you think?
Being a chef is no prize. So maybe I came from one industry that's no fun to another, but
one is no fun, but one is extremely tough, and you're almost on your own.
Yeah,
it's so lonely sometimes. Would you say?
Yes and no. I mean, the fact that I'm in the office every day and I meet with so many people, I think maybe that kind of takes away from some of that. But as far as it being tough, like there's challenges in every business, and it's the challenges I have in this business are not the challenges you have when you're a chef. And those challenges, to me, I'll deal with these challenges or the unknowns or the uncertainties any day of the week compared to what I came from. So to me, it's almost, I'm not saying it's easier, but to me, these are more calculated risks, because at the end of the day, as long as you're following the rules and doing everything right, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, you just did all this work and you don't get paid. Yeah. That's part of the business. Whereas when you're a chef, things can go drastically wrong in a hurry.
So in that vein of toughness, can you talk about the last time you had a major setback in your career, and then how'd you handle it? How'd you deal with it? Rejection of some kind, or a listing you didn't get, or something like that.
I mean, that happens on a weekly basis. Like if I don't get a list, just because of the volume I do and the number of people I talk to, I wouldn't say I've had a career setback, but as far as like your day to day, like, okay, I'm defeated today. It's not so much if I didn't get the listing or if they told me, hey, I went with another realtor. That doesn't bother me. It stings for maybe 20 minutes, but it's more like, well, there's a reason. And if I got that person and they left their realtor and I got them, it was possibly for the same reason. The things that are challenging for me is when the person on the other end, whether it's another realtor or a client, if they are sabotaging or being difficult intentionally and going outside, and because I'm not on that level, that's what's challenging to me. Yeah. And I have one going on right now, and it's, just rising above it and trying to be the bigger person. And if it means that the sale's not going to go through, but you're the bigger person in the end, that's enough comfort for me knowing, and in the back of my mind, I want to say, okay, you do what you want to do, but I'm going to check back with you in 2 years and see how that's working out for you. I haven't said it yet, but I have it ready to go. I'm tipping my tongue.
So what are you talking about? Like a tough realtor dealing with a tough realtor?
Yeah. Just a realtor on the other end that's just not following the rules, just nasty. It's more about just, if we don't get what we want and the seller doesn't agree or buyer doesn't agree, that doesn't bother me. But when they are not presenting counter offers or making this just a number of things, those are things that I have no patience for. So it's like, those are the challenging things, but I take comfort in the fact knowing that if I do check back with them on 2 years and they're, so I'm not going to go into detail on that.
My biggest pet peeve is when realtors ask, they make statements for their clients before even checking with their clients.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Why do we do that? It's just, I mean, I don't know if I've ever done it. I'm sure I have, but why do we? Because we kind of. Can you explain that?
They think that they are going to get me to understand, and it's like, look, it's not me. I tell them, I had 2 yesterday. I said, it's not me you need to explain this to. If they don't want to agree, that's fine. Get your client to sign, reject it, or get your client. Sure. And their response is, well, can we just deal with it so we're not going back and forth 4 times? I said, that's maybe easier for you, but in the end, it's not going to work. So you can send me the reply, but I want the seller to say it. I'm not having it come from you. So
only makes sense.
That's my only, I shouldn't say it's my only pet peeve, but that's the only thing I can say to rise above it in order to get them to try to do their job. But in the end, there is no real estate police. So in the end, it's like, keep doing that. If you're going to do that, you must be doing it to more people than just me. And if you're going to do that, you're going to get caught one of these times.
So dig deep right now. I want you to get off the topic of real estate, so to speak, and maybe it could be real estate. Any stories of any kind you can share with the audience of you were at an appointment or anything in that vein that we might find interesting at all? Personal story at all?
As far as
how things went, unexpectedly, or whatever, just something that comes to mind that, dealing with a client, dealing with another realtor, that kind of thing.
Maybe because there's so many, maybe not one comes to mind. There's been a bunch where it's just like I scratch my head and I'm thinking, how do you still have a real estate license? And if you're doing this to me, you're doing this to other agents, and it's just a matter of time before somebody reports you or you upset the wrong person. Yeah. So I take comfort in that fact, knowing that I don't have to do anything because they're gonna do it to themselves. In fact, I don't need to steer them on the right path. I don't want to help them get better. I want to see them. Yeah, I hate to say it that way, but if you're not working with me and you're going against what we're supposed to be doing right, then it get you out of the business sooner than later. And it's not going to be me doing it. They're going to do it to themselves.
It seemed your career, your job, your business is operated in business hours. I mean, like you're in the office usually 8, sometimes earlier 8 o'clock, and you leave. It depends if you have a buyer, work with her, but you usually you have working hours of 8 to 5, relatively. Is that fair to say?
That's the guideline, but like when it gets busier, as far as time management, and when somebody says, "How do you do it all?" It's knowing that certain things, if need be, certain things can be done before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m. if need be, and it's not going to affect the outcome of the end of your month or your year. So when it does get busy, then yes, there is going to be times where I'm starting an hour early and finishing an hour or two later, but it's also managing that. And I still go back to when I was a chef, it was 5 to 6, 12 to 13 hour days. And so what I try to do 9-hour days and then 4 hours on a Saturday and never work on a Sunday unless somebody's like, we have to list our house today. I'm in town for one day and then I'll, make do. But that's the goal. And it does usually stick right around 50 hours per week, so.
A lot of folks, myself included, weren't able to do that. I mean, I was always finding myself working every weekend, every Sunday, when a client calls, you bounce, you jump in the evening, in the afternoons. You have enough discipline, it seems to me, that you don't do all that. And it's self-defeating too, by the way. It's the worst thing you can do. Because you start doing that and they expect to reach you at midnight and 1 o'clock,
right? Whatever.
They have a wild hair and just they give you a call, which is fine, but still, I like the way you operate your business and working in hours every day, and I love that. So,
and I tell people, I say, look, you can try calling me or texting me, but my phone is physically ringer is off, and it's upside down, and I put it in a drawer on the first floor of the house, and I sleep on the second floor, so you can't even get to me if you want, and I shut it off pretty much at 8 o'clock every night, and I'll say something like, yeah, that's my work phone. It's off at 8 o'clock every night, and I've had the client say, oh, what's your personal number? Mm-hmm. And I'll tell them, oh, yeah, I'll get that for you. And I don't have a personal cell phone, but if I tell them, I say, no, I don't have a number. You can't reach me.
So you wake up in the morning, you've got no appointments, no listing appointments, no nothing going on. What do you do then?
Well, it's been a while since I've had one of those days, but if I were in that position, I would just go through my database and start calling people and get going with my next mailer. And I would probably just go sit in an open house for 4 hours. But all the work I'm going to do, I would do it from an open house as opposed to do it from my office.
You recommend that? I mean, I never understood why agents come in the office and they'll sit there hour after hour when they could go find a vacant house somewhere, put up a sign, and someone might stumble in by mistake.
Well, it's the difference between a fisherman. Like, you're going to go out fishing every day, but you're either going to do it in a boat out on the ocean, or you're going to go fishing in a Honda in a parking lot. Like, you're going to catch more fish if you're out in the ocean, But yeah.
With the time we have left, let's talk about why would someone want to move to Las Vegas, and in your mind, take the realtor hat off for a little bit. Just think of it. You've lived here a long time yourself. If you take the realtor, why would someone want to move here? Why would Californians are coming here. People from everywhere are coming here. It seems that way. That's why I don't see no a crash of any
No,
kind.
there's not.
Why would someone want to move here?
So outside of the fact that it's still cheaper to live here than in California or New York or Seattle or Massachusetts, I think if you're a business owner and you look at the business laws and the tax structure, I think there's probably more opportunity here for growth than just about anywhere else. I have friends and family mostly in Massachusetts, New York, and California, and I listen to their stories and their struggles, and I see and I know firsthand of what people do here. And not just my opinion, but hands down, just about everybody will say that there is probably more opportunity here than in it's so hard to get up and running off your feet in Mass or New York. It's so hard. But here it's like if you do the right thing, like, it's still difficult, but there's much more opportunity. There's people that move here for the weather or whatever it is, the mountains, that's all fine and dandy. We have all that. Now we have sports, but I feel like there's just more opportunity. And it's more diversified as opposed to 20 years ago where the only industry was gaming. Now there's opportunity for so many different things.
So we've got the A's are coming here. The Golden Knights have been here. We have the Raiders. What do we miss? We're only missing an
Basketball,
NBA team.
yeah,
That's
and
really
that's
about it.
Within the next 5 years, I'm hearing.
Those are the things that make cities boom, not crash, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
So I don't get the whole crash. I just don't.
There's a lot of things. Elon Musk's tunnel project that's going with the Teslas driving underground. That whole thing, I looked at it was like a subway map you would see in New York, and it's going to go everywhere, all over the Strip, and even to like the airport. And it's just crazy what's going on.
So I always, in closing, I always ask my guests to say that are realtors anyway. What would you recommend when you start? What to do? I'm not going to ask that. What I'm going to say is, knowing you where you're at in your career, if I'm doing 5 to 10 deals a year, what do I have to do to get to 20 deals a year?
I would sit down with an experienced agent and have them, or a coach, and have them analyze how much time and dollars are you spending on your marketing, your day, your prospecting, and then fine tune it. And if you're already doing it right, you're just not doing enough of it, then you just need to like ramp up your phone calls, your open houses, your mailers, whatever it is that you do. And whatever works for that person. There's some people that 90% of their business comes from social media. Do more social media.
Right.
Almost none of mine comes from that. So it's like you got to look at what is working for you and either work on that and just go 90%, 100% on that, or what's your weakest point and strengthen that. It just kind of depends. But there is no crystal ball. There is no, he got lucky. He knew somebody that knew a bunch of $1 million clients. So it's just looking at where your business is coming from and fine tuning it and staying with it.
Real estate agents blow me away in terms of what the potential is. I mean, the job, the career, the business itself. I mean, I always say I've known people who went to school for 8 years and don't make near the money that a realtor can make just by working hard. I mean, what do? We study for a test, we take it, and we go out and work hard. I mean, we didn't spend 8 years in school. We don't have to go back and recertify every other, it just blows me away the mega opportunity we have. And why so many fail, I have no idea, but we won't discuss that.
It's just doing it day after day. And the hard part is knowing that you've got to get up and do this kind of work. And with knowing you don't have a salary, you're doing it. And not only that, you're paying money, because if you don't sell, your money's going out the door. And that's the hard thing for a lot of people to grasp. So whether you build up and you put in a nest egg of 1 year, 2 years living expenses, or if you have some other type of supplemental income, then you're going about it in a different light, as opposed to, I just need to make a quick sale to pay my mortgage. Because I can't imagine how stressful that would be if you get your business up and running to a certain point and you don't have to worry about that. I think that what if becomes a lot easier, because then you just go and do your job. And if your job is 1 hour of emails, 2 hours of phone calls, 1 hour of networking, and 4 hours of showings or listing appointments, if you follow that general formula every day, you're going to sell 50 houses a year. Wow. You are.
Almost guarantee, right?
As long as you stick with it, and it might take 2 years to get up and running. With me, it took a lot longer, but I stuck with it. And the reason why is because my third year was 2008 and everything blew up. And 90% of the people that I started with were out of it. And it took me a lot longer, but as long as you stay with it, it's going to ultimately bear fruit, as long as you're doing everything the right way.
I forgot you lived to 2008, 9, and 10. I mean, we could do a whole show on that. I mean, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's say you, what do you do to stay motivated again? I mean,
I just look at what's the end result, and to me it's not a dollar amount. The end result is knowing that if what I'm trying to accomplish is sell X amount of houses a year, so that if you want to retire at a certain age or supplemental income, they're all kind of tied together. And I know that because I don't have a specific dollar amount or a specific number of houses I'm trying to hit, if it's a matter of saying, okay, well, that changes every quarter. Whenever you change your goals, there's some people that do their goals every year. Some people do them every quarter. I look at mine every month. And if it's a matter of saying, if I don't have the finish line, at least I know what path I'm going down. So there's not a specific reason, but I know that as long as I'm going down that path, if I have to go left or right, whatever it is, I have that both doors of opportunity will be open and I can choose one or the other.
So part-time, I get asked all the time, can I do this part-time? And I don't know, sometimes I answer that question differently depending on the person, because I guess it depends on your work ethic. But you are the shining example of someone who did it part-time and ended up being, when did you break off into full-time?
Well, I was only part-time, not by choice, but it was because the market was so low.
Yeah.
I had to get a night job. And I was still 2008, 9, 10, 11. I was maybe selling 12, 13 houses a year, which is barely enough to get by. But the problem is, back then, your average house was $60,000. So you're not making your sales per year are awful.
Right.
But to do it part-time, the pros and cons are, yes, you can go work on a team and you could just be that buyer's agent or this. But in order to truly sit down with a client and gain their trust, whether you're buyer or seller agent, if they're looking at you and you've not really been in the business for a while and you don't take it seriously, I wouldn't get a wisdom tooth pulled out by a part-time dentist. So it's kind of like, what's more important, a $500,000 investment and it's the biggest I'm going to make, or I could rip the tooth out myself. So I need a better realtor than I do a dentist. I love my dentist. He's a friend of mine, but it's yes and no. They can do it part-time.
All right, sir. Well, God, I cannot thank you enough, because I learned a lot myself just talking to you. So it's been awesome. And any last words for the folks out there?
No, just don't believe the hype, as the famous words of Flavor Flav. If somebody tells you it's an easy business to get into, and you watch if you watch all those TV shows with the LA listing and they $20 million house commission and they show the cha-ching, that's not reality. The reality is, go taking a listing appointment in the rough areas and not getting a flat tire on the way back. And I don't have a lot of fancy listings. It's just, string it together a bunch of smaller houses, and that's in the end, to me, it's just as good.
Well, you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you very much.
You're doing an amazing job.
Thanks, Jim.
As I said, and I'll say it again, I've had a lot of folks come up to me and ask, how do I get to be like Michael Marino?
Come on.
And I say, that's a damn good question.
Stop.
Follow him around for 3 days if you're not totally exhausted and you want to quit the business.
Yeah. I mean, I've had people come in my office and just say, hey, how do you do this, and that? Yeah. And once they get their question answered, it's kind of like, okay, but not very often does somebody come in and say, oh, what are you doing with this? What are you doing with that? If it's not just about a specific function or task. So yeah, nobody's really approached me with that. And,
I can't think of a top producer year after year, and it means a lot to the team, to the company and everything else, who takes the time to go to every sales meeting we have. I want to say you've been to 95% of all the meetings with everything you got going on. For what you get out of it, which is, I would think, not very much, because you're at a different level.
Sometimes I do, yeah.
But you always talk about your listings. But I'm so grateful for that through the years working with you, dude.
Thank you.
It's been an honor to work with you. I mean, beyond an honor. It really is. So
thank you.
And your loyalty is just incredible. You're an incredible human being, for one thing.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks.
I hope you know that, really.
I don't think about it too much, but I appreciate it that you acknowledge that. Thank you.
Well, you're humble. You wouldn't think in those terms, but you're quite a guy. You're a special guy. So
appreciate that.
With that said, I think I'm talked enough.
All right. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks.
Have a great one.